It's my pleasure to welcome you here to the Clark Howard Show. You know, our mission is to serve you with advice and information that empowers you so you make better financial decisions in your life. As usual on Fridays, we begin with your beefs with me on our Clark Stinks segment. And later, I want to talk about why there's no time like the present, and especially right now is a great time for you to consider becoming an entrepreneur. And I'll tell you what resources are out there for you and why I believe this is an entrepreneurial moment. But now it's moment for you to hear where I did not do a good job serving you.
I should have never encouraged you to speak.
You must think I'm pretty stupid.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
Well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe you're right, pal.
Okay. Jeff in Alaska, you're up first. All right, this isn't really a time that you stunk, but a heads up for your listeners. You recently commented on your show about gas prices falling due to oversupply. A lot of the cheaper prices being shown online are for 85 or 86 octane gas and not the 87 octane that is considered regular in most markets. Some older cars and cars driven at high altitudes can get by with the lower octane gas, but most manufacturers recommend minimum 87 octane. In some cases, there can be 50 cents a gallon or more price difference. Some cars can be damaged by the lower octane fuels. I know it's tempting to buy the lower grade gas where available to save money, but check with the manufacturer for your specific vehicle before cheaping out.
That's good advice. And by the way, on the gasoline front, the oversupply of oil in the world and then refined gasoline has continued. And in fact, the oversupply has increased, meaning that barring something unexpected, we're going to see prices as the weather starts to get warmer, where prices usually go up. In many places in the U.S., they're going to be trending down, at least for a while.
Alex in Georgia says, Clark addressed a question twice without mentioning the most important part of the decision. First, you sounded like you were the new poster child for buying the payment instead of the price. You said that now is a good time to buy a home without also stating how much insurance has jumped in price or property taxes. And it's also been clear that lowering the Fed funds rate does not equal lower mortgage rates. Most couples still can't qualify. I think that was when you were talking about new homes versus used homes.
Used homes. And, you know, mortgage rates have declined. And I mentioned, I think, recently about the opportunity on refis for people who can afford the payments on a 15-year refi, down in the fives now, 5.5, 5.6, 5.7. But yes, you're 100% right. It is an omission, a serious one on my part, if I didn't address the other expenses of owning a home having become more expensive.
Paul in Oregon says, you recommended switching to carriers that use Verizon transmission lines to save money. The low-cost competition does not offer free phones. The only reason to switch usually is because you need a new phone. The old one is worn out. The Verizon plans require you to sign on to a 3-year plan to pay for the free phone. There does not appear to be a good alternative around this, as the low-cost carriers want you to bring your own phone to their plan. This doesn't solve my problem because I always need a new phone once my 3 years are up.
Okay, this is a great question. I think I need to address this on another podcast, how the business model in the United States has morphed from T-Mobile, AT&T, and Verizon to handcuff you. And is that free phone really free? Why don't I take that on as a topic itself?
Yeah, we'll do that. Angela in Missouri says, Clark doesn't stink, but I do have a comment about having a digital driver's license. The last time I checked in my state, the law says that you have 24 hours to produce your license if you're in a collision or get a ticket of some sort without it on your person. I've been pulled over twice at night without my license and rattled off my driver's license number, not my social security number, without a hitch. They asked for the number and my birth date, and it was sufficient ID. I was free to go both times. I guess remembering the number without hesitation comes in handy.
Do you know yours by heart?
No.
You don't?
No.
Wow.
Why would I know that by heart?
I'm just a numbers person. I've known my driver's license number.
I only have so much real estate left in this brain, and that doesn't make the cut.
No, it's funny because there are so many numbers I can rattle off that there's no reason I should store them. But this one is a good suggestion to store that driver's license number in your head.
Cliff in Virginia says, Clark, you continue to rant about leaving credit card information with retailers. Some stores, such as Walmart and Sam's, which is owned by Walmart, hold the card information and will not let me delete it. I can only replace it with another card. This is online, I assume.
Yeah.
You fail to say how we can take the card out and not hold it. I've read that they do this for my convenience, but it is not. I have a card I use for online shopping, and I've used it enough that I memorize the number in CVV. Other websites that I use either ask about saving or allow me to delete it after the sale. In this case, Walmart stinks, but you do a little for not offering a solution when you bring it up on the podcast.
Yeah, the solution, this came up before actually, not about Walmart, is most issuers now will give you a one-time use number, and you can store that on Walmart and Sam's, and it will not be useful for anybody else any other time other than that one time. And it's stored there, so you've met, I don't know why they require the storing of a card, but you've met that, and it's a number that nobody can do any mischief with.
So, but I guess if you're trying to get them to delete one and you can't delete it online, maybe usually you can go like payment methods and delete methods that are already stored, but I would call them and find out.
I'm gonna check because I'm a member of both. It's never occurred to me. I know Sam's because I have the Sam's Club MasterCard. That one is automatically stored embedded in the Sam's Club system, and I don't have a way to delete that, but I'm going to look at Walmart. But the one-time use numbers are a great defense against anybody telling you have to store a number, because it's not going to hurt you to have that one-time use number, and it meets what they require.
Often called virtual card number, too, if you're online. Okay, Marie in Tennessee says, Clark, you don't stink, but you're gumming up your clothes dryer. Switch from dryer sheets to dryer balls. Money-wise, and depending on how many loads over a certain period, you'll likely start saving in around a year, based on 3 cents for half a dryer sheet versus $2 for 3 dryer balls. Multiple balls are needed for increasing tossing. The dryer balls start to break down after 2 to 3 years of use. Significantly, you are not gunking up the dryer with residual softening agent. You're bypassing contributing the dryer sheets to the waste stream, and you made your life easier by reducing purchases from your routine Costco trips.
So I'm not familiar with this. Will you?
They're like wool balls. I use them in my dryer. So you can also put a little like aromatherapy drops on them if you want to make your clothes smell better. But some people even use tennis balls, but I use like wool dryer balls that I get at like Home Goods. They sell them, and you put them in with your clothes, and they help the clothes to move around and dry faster.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. See, I learned something every day on our podcast.
All right.
Thank you for that.
Rob in Utah says, you had someone ask about a 10-year balloon mortgage through a credit union. You were right to point out the risks that the loan is due in full after 10 years and that verbal statements that they would automatically rewrite the loan don't count. You failed to mention the possible upsides of this arrangement. Assuming a $400K mortgage for 30 years at a 6.5 fixed or the 4.99 balloon, the difference in payments is $383 per month. How about just save that $383 in a refinance account, and then on the start of year 10, you have $41,364 in the bank to use to look for a new mortgage if the credit union won't automatically refinance it. The balance is approximately $343K, so you have about every option available to you. It could be that the credit union just can't put certain things in writing due to their federal insurance requirements.
So I appreciate that perspective, because all I was looking at was the potential downside and the fact that it wasn't in writing. And you point out the real-time money savings that are clear as could be. And I appreciate you writing that.
Jason in Minnesota says, Clark, you almost stink as bad as the poop cruise did back in 2013.
Oh, man, that cruise. I mean, think about it. It's been 13 years and people still talk about that poop cruise.
There was just I think it's on Netflix. There's a documentary called Poop Cruise.
Really?
Yeah, but Jason says he was just kidding. You recently talked about comparing booking a Disney cruise through Costco Travel or a travel agent, and you said Costco Travel was just clicking on their website with no person to talk with. My family of 6 went on our first cruise a few years ago, and booked through Costco Travel. I called their customer service rather than booking online. The agent on the phone was fabulous. She explained everything to me and what I should be prepared for. She also followed up with me via email just before the trip to make sure my family was ready and if we had any questions.
Wow.
While I've heard going on cruises can be a very stressful experience, my family had the best vacation ever. It did help that the Disney cruise was top-notch in communication and making sure our experience was 5-star. They send out lots of information before the trip so you're well informed on what to do. I hope the person who writes in also talks with other people who have been on Disney cruises and can be prepared before the trip. Our family was lucky to go on another cruise recently that was not Disney and will say the experience was not the same. While the other cruise line was good, the level of service and hand-holding we received on Disney was not even comparable. The other cruise was booked through an agent, and that agent was good, but not as helpful as the Costco travel agent. There were a lot of tips and tricks the agent could have told us about that were missed. I hope the person who wrote in considers calling the Costco travel phone number and can get the dollar savings and the best experience my family got. Thank you, Clark, for all you do for your listeners.
Well, first of all, thank you. And people are near universal in their love for Disney cruises. And I've never been on one because they're pricier. But also, it would never occur to me to call Costco Travel. I mean, it's set up to book online, and maybe they do offer, is the experience you had said, that they offer cruise experts for you to talk to. That's news to me. I just always booked with them to save money. And by the way, when you think about Costco Travel, the areas that you can save just so much money are car rentals, where car rentals booked through Costco Travel tend to be much cheaper than booking somewhere else. Again, I've never talked to a human to book one. And you get a second driver free, where now the car rental agencies charge a junk fee if another person in your party is going to drive. Costco gives you that free. So thank you for that tip, that they're actually cruise experts you can talk to, because that's just not even something that ever I thought about. So I appreciate it. And I appreciate all of you taking the time to post all the thoughtful things from the first one about gasoline all the way through. I appreciate you providing the information, because we're all in this together. We all learn together, and nobody has a monopoly on knowledge. We all build knowledge from what we read, what we experience, what we learn, and from each other. Coming up ahead, I want to talk about zigging when others are zagging. There's an opportunity for you in the marketplace right now I want to talk about. Just the other day, I talked about how the economy was a big question mark, but one thing's not, and that is a lot of employers have been bragging about laying people off. They're not just laying people off, they're bragging about it to Wall Street. It's the hot thing right now to cut headcount. And a lot of people being laid off, you're hurting. You're sore, and you can't believe how one-way loyalty was, no matter how many years you've been there, where you work. But what did you get while you were doing whatever you've done over the years? You got experience, you got knowledge, and you probably also learned where weak spots are in the delivery of the service or product that you learned all about where you worked. What am I getting to? Anytime the employment picture darkens, the entrepreneurial opportunities emerge every single time. Last year, I talked about how so many new businesses formed back in the uncertainty in 2020 with the initial onslaught of COVID. And a lot of people who lost their jobs went out and started their own thing, and now those businesses are growing. And I saw stats recently about December employment, and because that's always a look back, and it showed that the hiring was going on by small businesses, and larger businesses were not hiring net. They may be hiring some people, but laying more off. The opportunity for the United States for economic growth is always where we're not looking. It's with new small businesses, some which will fail, others which will thrive, and some will become huge businesses of tomorrow, and they'll become lumbering bureaucratic giants. If you are sitting there saying, what am I going to do with myself? Maybe what you're going to do is you're going to start your own business, seizing opportunity based on your experience and your knowledge. And there are resources out there to help you. Over the years, I've talked about score.org, Service Corps of Retired Executives. It's where people who really love the whole entrepreneurial thing volunteer their expertise and skills to help you when you're trying to set up a business, or if you're in a business and you kind of hit a rough patch. You can talk with someone. You may, depending on the score location, there may be mentors that will guide you to starting your business, or if you're already in business, helping you get the business more healthy. Again, the website score.org. One of the things SCORE does is they offer various courses at many SCORE locations for various things you've got to know about starting a business, owning one, operating one. And then small business development centers, which are available through state universities around the country. And these college or university business development programs are designed to help create economic growth where you are, if you want to stay where you are. And so these resources are available to help you get past your fear, your reluctance, or your hesitation to start your own thing. And sometimes people just have an entrepreneurial personality they didn't know was there, and they're too wild-eyed about what they're going to do. And talking with people who can give you guidance will actually get you to think about the things you haven't thought about that you have to prepare and plan for. But I want to tell you, as a lifelong entrepreneur, there are multiple ways you create financial independence. I did it from a young age, starting businesses, investing, buying in an era that it worked, doesn't really work right now, buying foreclosed real estate, all these things. So I created a situation in my life where I was lucky enough to be financially independent by the time I was 31. And all through my life, I've been about entrepreneurial things. And so I'm wired that way. And I may be talking to you about you hurting, losing a job, talking about something that is not true to who you are. That being out there starting your own thing is not who you are. But a lot of other people, you've been comfortable in whatever you're doing, and that's why you never did your own thing. And maybe this is that time.
All right, let's go to questions. Joe in Ohio says, I've heard about supercharging your HSA, paying for medical expenses out of pocket, but still contributing to the HSA, just not using the funds and to then use them years or decades later.
Right.
Is this allowed to save receipts for expenses to reimburse them years or decades later? And are there any risks to this strategy? If using this strategy, what would be the recommended steps to protect yourself from scrutiny on documentation?
So as best I know, nobody's saying, oh, I don't believe you really had that expense 18 years ago.
Well, you have to have
the document.
Yeah.
So what people do that are doing this strategy you're talking about is they make a digital copy and they keep the paper copy. So if one or the other vanishes, you still have the other. You have a backup of your documentation. Now, the other thing that's really important, Joe, is you don't save that money in the HSA, you invest it. My favorite place for you to invest HSA money, just because they very early made it very streamlined and made it very low cost for you to invest the money, widely diversified, is Fidelity Investments and their HSA. A lot of employer-provided HSA plans are junk. They tend to use really terrible HSA administrators that charge extremely high costs and are generally looked at as parking spaces for money. But you can move your money from the crummy employer plan to your own plan at Fidelity or somewhere else, where you have the ultra low costs with an emphasis on long-term growth of that money. And remember, HSA money is even better to have later in life than Roth money. And I am the man from Roth. And there's something potentially better, and usually is better, and that's HSA money.
All right. Lee in Alabama says, you've always said to buy the largest, cheapest TV possible.
Yep.
What's your thought on spending a little more on QLED or one of the others? By the way, I have to say, you helped me get a TV for my parents in their new place that they're living. And it's so big, my dad's TV, but it was such a deal. You found it on Walmart Plus Black Friday or something, Walmart.com. And it's hilarious. My mom says she's got some memory issues and she keeps walking in. That's the biggest TV I've ever seen in my life. My dad loves it.
Yeah, so what happens with TVs is there's state of the art and there's a little bit cutting edge, and then there's current technology. The QLEDs are almost at a point where they're current technology. And a lot of the QLEDs are not crazy more expensive. I would say a QLED is a compromise between me saying buy the cheapest rock gut TV you can find in the largest screen size you can imagine having. That's right, like 300-inch screen. No, not that big. But don't buy the flashy, state-of-the-art TVs that you're paying 4 to 6 times the price of the cheap rock gut one that I would have you buy based on screen size. And the screen sizes keep getting larger, and a lot of people don't live in a space where you need or want a huge screen TV. But even 85-inch screen TVs have been pricing in the range of $600 to $800 without you even breaking a sweat. 100-inch TVs have been as cheap in sales cycles as $1,000.
I could just see if you lived in one of those like micro apartments, like 300 square feet, you'd have a 100-inch TV on the wall.
All right. So let me go back in the Wayback Machine. Every year I used to cover the Consumer Electronics Show, now called CES, in Las Vegas. First, I did it for CNN and HLN, and then years after that, I did it for a group of TV stations around the country. And I still remember one year going there, and there were tile TVs. And I was so excited because you could just keep making your TV bigger and bigger as you can afford to buy more and more tiles. And they plugged into each other like the way Christmas trees now, where you just click them in, and it would automatically adjust to the size of screen. And the one I saw filled a whole wall. And I was like, this is going to be great. And that never really became a thing, except in commercial uses. where these tile TVs can be whatever size you want them to be.
Oh, okay, so
You know what size screen I watch football on?
No.
85 inch.
Okay. It would be 100, but Lane probably won't let you. Am I correct?
You're right.
Okay.
And the 85, I watch the 4-box where I can watch 4 games at once. And I noticed that everybody but my son will walk out of the room because they're overwhelmed by it's like an overload seeing 4 games at once.
So I pulled this question because I had seen it, and you mentioned in Clark Stinks that you want to elaborate on this, so maybe you want to do it right now. Paul in Illinois says, Clark, what is coming? For months now, we've been seeing nearly all the cell phone service and wireless internet providers discounting their prices if we're willing to sign up for 26 months, 3 or 5 years, and even for a lifetime. In the past, when we've seen offers like this by so many providers, it's meant that some new technology or service was on the horizon for everyone to see a significant savings over what they have now. Do you know what's driving this?
Yes, let's talk about it specifically for home internet. So for a long, long time, we had a shared monopoly known as a duopoly with the cable monsters and the monopoly local phone company for internet. Some people would have a choice of only one of those two or have both. What's happened and is happening with increasing frequency around the country as is at your home or business, you're now seeing a choice of 3 to 6, let's say, home internet service providers or business internet service providers where you are. So the incumbents, and especially the cable monsters, have been saying, hey, we know they don't say this to you, but they've got a cred problem because they'll offer you a deal and then 6 months later the price doubles or whatever. So because they really undermine trust with their customers and they're so worried now about competition from others, they're offering these price locks for usually 3 years. I haven't seen a 5, but maybe 5 is out there and I just haven't seen that, to try to give you some confidence that they're not going to stick it to you 6 months later or a year later with a massive increase in the cost of the internet for your home or business. So it's responding to competitive pressures. What it tells you and what it told me is you put your business at play. You put it into competition. And I'm constantly driving my family crazy with changing who our internet service is with because of the better deals that are coming up. At my address, I've got a choice of 5 internet service providers now. And the result of that is the prices are going down, down, down. And it's fantastic. So if you are a creature of habit, Paul, look at this as a positive, not a negative. The competition that the cable monsters and the monopoly phone companies are facing is what the market should do, and that is provide you with more innovation, better service, and better prices. And that's why it's a defensive thing with particularly the cable monsters saying, trust us, we're not going to raise your prices. We're going to fix it for how many years? And we're not going to stick it to your wallet. And that's a good thing. And thank you so much for joining us today. I hope that you learned today something really useful from what we did in Clark Stinks and what I did later about entrepreneurs. I want to tell you, I learned every single Clark Stinks because I'm just a guy and I become lazy intellectually and I'll see something one way and I'll miss a change in the marketplace, or I'll just miss something that's an important thing to share with you that would improve the quality of the advice and information that I provide. And so you just have no idea how much I appreciate you being part of Team Clark when you take the time to write your Clark Stinks, because we all learn together. And I hope that you have a fantastic weekend this weekend, and that you, if you're a football nut like me, that you enjoy the playoff games this weekend. And I will be at your service on Monday.